Mia, thanks for joining us.
Nice.
As always, so we hear what Eric has to say around the issues that we're facing in South Africa. I think we saw the AdCorp index coming out today, so it was slightly positive. We're seeing more jobs being created, but then you've got to weigh that up against all the structural problems where unemployment is already. We have a lot to catch up on, and then concerns that Jill Marcus highlights, more job losses to come.
You're right. We spoke about all these factors that's so negatively influencing the sentiment around South Africa at the moment. We see the power supply. Yesterday there was a report that came out on the power grid in South Africa, and that it is actually in big trouble. Medupi hasn't been finished, so we have that problem where we see smelters and those kind of companies getting rebates back from Eskom, and they can't produce, so they can't actually help stimulating jobs and stimulating the economy. And then just all these industrial actions that we've seen the last couple of months since August has had a very negative influence on the rand. That makes you think, how are we going to go forward? We've seen IMF downgrading South Africa's growth prospects this year as well. And over the next 3 years, the expectation for South Africa is to be one of the lowest emerging market growers. And that's not very positive if you look, to invest from a foreign perspective into South Africa. And that has come through by seeing that over the last quarter, investors from abroad has actually pulled out around 4.5 billion rands of money out of our equity market, and that just doesn't support it so much. But therein lies the opportunity to invest in one of the many companies on the JSE that offer you the diversification.
And which one company is that?
Well, I mean, there's so many that we can actually look at. We've had the chat today about 4G coming out in the mobile industry. We know that MTN offers you a diverse portfolio in different countries, and they've been a company that showed you that they can grow in these difficult markets, and especially in Africa. Telemobile is definitely a way to go. I mean, we don't know, there's no landline infrastructure through the whole of Africa. People don't have computers, the majority of them. So the internet is expanding through cell phones, and that is where they have the opportunity to make money, and they have done that. If
we're talking about Vodacom and MTN, it's Vodacom that's beat MTN in the 4G race. They were the first to, in fact, start piloting it. Do you think this is a big deal, the fact that Vodacom managed to beat MTN? Because we know that MTN was, in fact, the first person to say out they're going to launch it this year, and then it seems like it's this management kind of race, who's going to be the first to announce it. Is it a big deal that they had that front runner position?
I doubt it. I think there's going to be a lot of problems with the rollout of 4G initially. We've heard that they MTN also said when they roll out, they will struggle to supply it immediately or during this year in Cape Town. So I think there's going to be a lot of glitches, a lot of problems initially. I don't think people will go out and just buy a 4G contract because they won't be able to use it throughout the country.
You have to, in fact, buy the handset, and then, of course, there's the cost factor.
That's the thing. So I think most people will wait for 4G to be rolled out in a proper manner and a more reliable manner throughout the country. So I don't think it's a big up for Vodacom on MTN. Both these companies have proved to be very good investments for investors on the JSE. I mean, if you just look at the total return they've given investors over the last year, both is around, I think, 22%. And that's much better than we can say of many of the other companies, except now if we forget about the retailers, that's up there in price and returns.
Yeah.
So looking at what you can still buy, look for companies that you still value is reasonable to pay the price for. We've spoken about commodities to lens. The problem with that sector is the fact that you won't know when the earnings will be coming through because of the slow growth that we're seeing throughout the world. Companies like Sasol, they also export, and they were trading at a very cheap price, and all these companies will report earnings in rand, which will help them now with the weakening of the rand.
What was your view, if we're talking about companies, let's talk about the financial space, because what's your view on the sell-off we've seen in Absa? Worst performer in the top 40 today, down 2.8%. Batho Bonke, their BE partner, is selling out of the stake. That really is not a show of confidence in the company. They're not wanting to stick around. What's your view on the signal this sense?
Well, I think the biggest sentiment around ABSA lately has been a no vote of confidence coming from investors. There are here and there the fund managers that you hear are buying into it. For me personally, and for us as a company, our valuations just shows that on the qualitative side, there are a lot of structural problems inside the company that we're not happy with and that we don't feel comfortable with. And
so even though from a PE perspective, from a quantitative point of view, it's an attractive buy, you know, you have to understand why it's selling at this discount.
That's the reason, you know, so we wouldn't invest in it even at the price that it's trading, and we prefer a company like First Rand or Standard Bank who offers you a diversification through Africa and has much more stable management and stable prospects within the company going forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mia Kruger, Portfolio Manager at Kruger Internasionaal.